Testing, testing. Let me make sure that I can hear myself first. I'm gonna want to share something with you guys. Make sure to turn up the. Okay, it's all good. Yeah. Oh wow. I'm listening to one of these lessons uploaded by Truth Unedited. Now, recently I told you I did a live stream um, recommending his channel, and I've recommended his channel and his videos before. But all praises to the Most High Yahuwah. Yeah, and I've been watching his series. I've been subscribed to his channel for a while, and I definitely recommend his channel and the information that he is sharing from the scriptures. And of course, we of course we have the biblical canon that we know of, the 66 books of the biblical canon, or uh, that include the Torah, the books from Genesis to Revelation, but know also, and you can do your own research to find out that there were also books um, like those that were included with the biblical canon before, I believe, the 16th century, I believe, or before the 17th century. You had the books that referred to as the Apocrypha, okay? All right. And there's also like the book of Jubilees and the book of Jasher, or the book of Jasher, which is mentioned in the Torah. I believe it, or yeah, it is mentioned, I believe, in the book of like First Samuel, the book of Jasher. So there is now, he goes into explaining, okay, and you can do your own research. But yeah, there have been books that have been removed or separated. Okay, and if you do your research, you'll find out why that had been separated from the biblical canon that we are more familiar with. Just like how they tried to split the Old and New Testament, you know. Yeah, and we shouldn't regard it as such. But yeah, in his series, okay, he has, okay, like I have told you guys to subscribe to his channel, and I've got the link to at least one video in the description. You can find it, Truth Unedited. I just shared the death of Rachel, the video. Let me do a screen share. Let me show you. Let me play a little bit of it, because I'm kind of like in tears. Oh my gosh, I'm touched by this, and I love the choice of the way he does his videos. Hold on. How do I? Of course, I know how to share this. I love this. Like kind of. I don't want to compare it to South Park, but this. What do you call this style of animation? It's kind of like a cutout. Look like paper dolls, like a cutout. It's like kind of two-dimensional form of animation, and also with the yeah, with a realistic background and everything. It's simplified. It's easy for for telling stories, and plus I'm not too up on all the AI. I like that he uses like images and footage of real people, like through storybooks. I like the way that he sets up his videos. The timing is good, and they keep you wanting to come back for part two, for the next part. You'll find yourself binge watching his videos. And he definitely shares an abundance of scriptures as well. Okay, and a lot of secular information also to support what he's sharing, along with the scriptural information. So I definitely recommend his channel. And right now, I'm gonna try to perhaps share this. Yeah, he has the Waking Up to the Truth series, which I definitely recommend watching, even though right now I've just finished watching part 20. But yeah, I maybe be attracting you with this video, but he recommends, and I recommend as well, watching from the very beginning. But if I can attract you with this one video here, but yeah, let me talk about this, because now I haven't completely like read the book of Joshua Jubilees. I haven't completely read it. I have read the biblical canon from Genesis to Revelation, but I haven't completely. I've read much of the book of Joshua, more so on Esau. Yeah, because it gives you a little more detail. Like, for instance, the detailed information on Nimrod. And I know that these books I know it's the real thing. Also, you got to do your research. For one, from what I learned from my book of Bible stories when I was, attending the Kingdom Hall with my family members who had became Jehovah's Witnesses. And like there's the story on Nimrod. And although the biblical canon that we know of, like in the book of Genesis, it doesn't really go in detail on Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, but yet in the My Book of Bible Stories, they do put it as him being the one behind the construction or the dictator, behind the Tower of Babel being constructed, right? So obviously, the Kingdom Hall, the Watchtowers Association, they got that from. They had that mean that they had to have known what was in the Apocrypha, because how did they know that? To even put that in the My Book of Bible Stories, how did they know if Genesis did not give detailed information about Nimrod being behind the Tower of Babel? How did they know that? And that's just one example. So I know that the Apocrypha is real. Same with the story about the giants in the earth in regards to the Nephilim, which now the Book of Enoch gives more information on that. But yeah, and learning about it gives you a better understanding of why certain things may have happened. It even, made me wonder, like with the passing of Rachel, could that have had to do, Rachel, for those who don't know, Rachel, she passed away while giving labor to the youngest son of the youngest of the tribe of the sons of Yasharel, Jacob, or Jacob's name being changed to Israel, aka Yasharel. Um, yeah. His now you okay for those. Let me just give you a little. Now Abraham. Okay, faithful servant to Yah. Okay, many nations came out. Our forefather Abraham. All right, the covenant goes back to Abraham, as we know, a descendant of Shem. Okay, and Abraham had his sons. Okay, but I'm just going to talk about the one that he had with Rebecca. Okay, he had his son Isaac. All right, and he showed himself to be most faithful and the friend of the Most High Yahweh. That's why the covenant was made with him, our forefather. And Abraham had his son with Sarah, which was a miracle, by a miracle, being that they were of age, of not childbearing age. But he had it with his wife Sarah, or Sarai, whose name was changed to Sarah. He had Isaac. Okay, and Isaac married Rebecca, and Isaac and Rebecca, they had twins, and which was also like a miracle, because she was also unable for a period to have children. But she became pregnant with twins, Jacob and Esau. Okay, now we know Esau, the oldest son, his name was changed to Edom, and I'm going to be speaking more so in modern English translations of these names. Okay. All right, because and Jacob, or Yaakov, Jacob's name was changed to Israel, or Yasharel. It's better to say Yasharel. Okay, you're representing Yah. Okay, yeah, and So now we know that Esau, the oldest son, he married a lot of foreign women and one Shemitic wife at the end. But Jacob, he did as his parents wanted, and knew what was best for him in marrying of his own people. Yeah, so he went to work for his uncle Laban, and Laban had daughters, Leah being the oldest, and Rachel. Now he spotted Rachel, for those, just to put you up on, in case you don't know. He, it was kind of a love at first sight thing with Rachel. That's who he wanted to marry. He worked 7 years for Laban before his uncle, so he could marry Rachel. However, after that 7 years, and he said he worked for him 7 years, and he would give him his wife, he'd give him his daughter Rachel to marry. But after those 7 years, he kind of took back. He gave him his oldest daughter Leah, because it was custom to give away the oldest daughter Leah, away in marriage first, right? Yeah. And understand there's obviously a reason back then, we're not to question why, They were intermarrying into relatives, perhaps to help populate the earth more. Whereas now, we shouldn't do that. We could risk we could risk like mutations with children and problems with the children. But yeah, back then that was like just like the men were also allowed to have multiple wives. I don't want to go all into that, but you have to understand also women were definitely dependent on their husbands to take care of them, and being that I can imagine the abundance of women, unlike how it is today. But we do know that initially man was created one man, one woman, one husband, one wife. That was Adam and Eve initially created. But a lot of times these things are allowed. This is part of Yah's will because, as we know, Jacob became the father of many sons, many nations. So obviously, this was with the situation with Jacob and Leah, the maidservant, and this is obviously all a part of Yah's will, so that he could have so many children. See, that's what you got to consider also. So, but yeah, he was in love. Okay, he was in love with the younger sister you see on the right with the red dress is being depicted here, Leah. He was in love with the younger sister. He, was not initially attracted to, the younger sister Rachel on the right. He was not initially attracted to Leah, and it could have been a thing. He saw Rachel first. That's who he had his eye on first. That's who he perhaps met first. Yeah, that's who I believe, met first. And obviously she was beautiful, and that's who he fell in love with first. So he worked 7 years to be with her, but he was given Leah instead. Okay, and we can't understand. We got to stop looking at things through a modern lens. Okay, I know that the women, we've come a long way, baby. Virginia Slims. Stop looking at it in a modern feminist or their idea of patriarchy today, Gentile idea of patriarchy today, or feminist. Yeah, don't look at it from today's lens. Okay, but yeah. So he was more so in love. He was in love with Rachel. Okay, and but so eventually, you learn about their story in his prior videos. But this is the video where it addresses where Isaac and Rachel and Leah, where they all passed, the death of Rachel. Yeah, and prior videos you'll learn more about. So you're following, even though this is all true, but you're following this story, and it's just really, So let me share some of it. I'm gonna speed a little bit up because you can't help and understand. Leah is I believe definitely our mother. Leah, more specifically, she is the mother of Judah, and our people, the y'all want to call FBA, are the descendants of Yahudah. Okay, yeah, she's the mother of his first 4 children: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so that is our ancestor. If you're of Yahudah, that is our ancestor. Leah, that's our mother. Okay. And you got to see the Hidden Hebrews series, Benaiah Israel, because and I believe he has the Judas DNA, and it shows that E1B1A, which is believed to be Jacob, it shows that the descendants, those of the paternal or the male descendants of E1B1A, they had 4 mothers. And that's just what the Bible says. 4 women. They have 4 mothers. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. I mean, this really elevates your faith. So you learn about, although you can't help but, okay, when you learn this, you can't help but feel kind of for Leah, right? Leah, but like you said, you don't know, he was still human. Jacob was still, although a servant of the Most High Yah, he was still a human. Okay, and and I don't want to bring up that reality show, so I'm gonna just say that reality show that everybody's been talking about recently. I won't say the name of it, But yeah, when you're not, if you're not attracted, automatically not attracted. But I didn't know this that, see, because I didn't really know about this more in context. It was good to know it doesn't really go in detail, and he explains why in the book of Genesis, in the biblical canon that we know of, on Rachel and Leah and their passing and everything, because I didn't know. Like somebody said, it's comforting to know. Yeah, this a little more in detail, because you can't help but kind of feel for Leah. The thing is that Leah, however, she was more fertile, and that meant a big deal. That was a big deal to a woman being able to bear, unlike how we see it today, but being able to birth children, that really like raise your value as a woman. I know a lot of y'all don't want to hear that. Oh my gosh, that's Mammy mule talk. That's pick me talk. But yeah, let me play some of it. Let me see. Let me try to speed some of it up. The brother has been. I might have to remember to make a donation, because I know I've been using some of his. But let me play. I'm just speed it up a little bit. We just want to play this part because it really got me thinking, especially with all because you have those like in social media, who are really trying to make Black women feel bad for having love and support for the quote unquote Black. I know I shouldn't be saying Black, speaking in black and white anymore, but trying to make the women of Yasharel feel bad for still being supportive of the men of Yasharel. Um, yeah, and it's understand we could be hurt, and we can, um, but yeah. Yeah, the thing is, understand, he still took care of Leah. Leah was one of his wives. He still took care of her. He still took care of her. And, I'm going to find out he did still love her. He just that, he had initially fell in love with Rachel. That's how it happened. Hold on. So he explains, okay.
I know all you watch our forefather Yaakov and you look at him as being so wrong. Women that watch this, he did a very bad thing. And let me just say something real quick here. Let me just say this to the women that watch this. I know all you watch our forefather Yaakov and you look at him as being so wrong. And I get it, especially with all the nonsense with men today and how they can act. But please, don't attach your feelings about men and attach it with our forefather Yaakov. Was he perfect? Obviously not. But unless any of us were in his exact situation, you would not understand. He didn't bag up Leah, gas her all up, and then take advantage of her. That's not what happened. He chose Rachel from the beginning. Rachel was the first one he saw, and he instantly loved her. He made an arrangement for Rachel. He loved Rachel. And maybe you don't like how he treated Leah, but he didn't love her at that time.
Yeah.
His heart was with Rachel. Now, Shady Laban, he put Leah in that position, and it was all for our lives today. This wasn't all about a love story. Leah had a purpose, and she absolutely is blessed. She is the mother of 6 of the sons of Yasharel. Please don't place your modern thoughts of men and attach it to our forefather Yaakov. He did not play games. He wasn't in some love cycle that he created. He had a true heart for Rachel from the time he seen her. You were not in his shoes. You don't know really how he felt. So please, try to see things from a different perspective than what you may be trained to see things from. This isn't some kind of story from Waiting to Exhale. And I say all this because
He said this isn't some kind of story from Waiting to Excel, okay? All right. Let me go back on that. Yeah, because there are some women. It's just like the story, like they don't get it with the story of Esther, and it's not just a story. Okay, this really happened. Like with Esther, Queen Esther. I remember learning that now Vashti, the king's first wife, yeah, she's this feminist. I had read in Wikipedia Vashti in the Bible, the king's first wife that he put away or did away with. He didn't unalive her, but he just got a new wife in Esther. I remember reading in Wikipedia that she's a feminist icon, which is very interesting because, okay, if you know about who's the king, what was the king's name, who was the king, Ahasuerus, who's the king with Esther, Queen Esther husband. What was his name? Yeah, Ahasuerus or Xerxes the first. Okay, if you know anything about like with Esther, yeah, okay. Yeah, he married his first wife Vashti. Okay, now he had his first wife Vashti, but he wanted his wife to come down and as beautiful as she was, and kind of wanted to show off his wife, like see how beautiful my wife is. But she was like, no, I don't want to come down. I don't. You're not gonna put me on display. So he kind of off because she was not a submissive wife, obviously. And he married Esther, and yeah, so yeah, and a lot of y'all thinking, well, yeah, she's in a right if she didn't want to come down and be on display or wanted people to see her, and maybe then she had her right. That's how we would talk today, right? But yeah, maybe he did just want to show his beautiful wife. Maybe he was, so beautiful and wanted the world to see her beauty and wanted to share in her beauty. Would it have really hurt her to come down? And I don't think it's not like he said, come down and come and dance, or walk in a swimsuit or something. It wasn't that. In other words, it wasn't that serious. Okay, it wasn't that serious. All right, maybe he did want to show off his beautiful wife, but it wasn't that serious for her to, you know. Yeah, yeah. And see, the thing is, see now, Esther was a more submissive wife, and she was so. Of course, we know she wouldn't look like this in this depiction here, but she was a more submissive wife, and it also tells how they say you catch more flies with honey. Well, her sweetness and her see, we think it's a weak thing to submit. We think it's a sign of weakness. We've been just like how we hear the word dependent, and we all automatically see it as a bad word, being dependent. You know, but we gotta understand we're all dependent on each other. It's not necessarily a bad word. It all depends on the context. But yeah, and who you are dependent on, because we're all dependent on the Most High. Yeah, we're dependent on our loved ones. You're dependent on your spouse. You're dependent, for love, for support, for provisions. We're all in a degree in a state of dependency. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's more for who you're dependent on. Like now, if you're dependent on this world, then that's a bad thing. But when you're dependent on the Most High, and then the ones who love you, then or just the Most High alone, then that's an awesome thing. It's great to be in a state of dependency. Okay, or it's great to be a servant. Like we instantly hear servant, and we think something bad. But anyways, I did a video, one of my very, very first videos up in here, and it wasn't on me trying to be what y'all call a pick me or nothing like that, or just trying to tickle the ears of men. No, but one of my earliest videos, and this is before I knew my husband at the time. We were friends, but I wasn't married yet. It's okay to submit, because I thought about how I used to see those scriptures back in the 90s and the mentality I had in the 90s versus how I changed, or how I got it when I got a better understanding of what was meant by that. When you get a better understanding of the roles of men and women. But yeah, so he got a new. You see, the thing is, okay, yeah, Vashti, she was her own person, and couldn't tell her what to do, and but yeah, but you see, in the case of Esther, she was a more submissive wife, but see, you catch more flies with honey. See, and her being a submissive, it was so easy for him to support and provide for and take care of her. And she, in her sweetness, she was able to get this king to go against his own people. Okay, or on the behalf of her and her people. Do you understand what I'm saying? You catch more flies with honey. But anyways, getting back to yeah, so I can imagine people today seeing Leah as a mammy mule, or she let me get back to some people may see this as brainwashing, and yeah, okay, let them keep on, just let them, but let's go back to yeah, and understand that, like I said, they weren't perfect. They weren't perfect. You're gonna hear their flaws. That's why I know the Bible is truth, because if the Bible was fiction, it would all be just, You would hear none of the flaws of King David or the errors that he made. That's how fairy tales usually go. Like I remember when I first heard from my book of Bible stories, the story on Job. I was like, I felt that he was like, Job who was tested. I felt that he was like not human. How could any person go through all that? But then when you read the Bible, the scriptures more in context, you do see that he was like, oh, like he wasn't like this person of stone. He was confused himself, like didn't understand why this was happening to me. So that they are human, but yet and still Job passed the test. Okay, so let me go back. Yeah.
I know all you watch our
Oh, turn it back up.
thing real quick here. Let me just say this to the women that watch this. I know all you watch our forefather Yaakov and you look at him as being so wrong. And I get it, especially with all the nonsense with men today and how they can act. But please, don't attach your feelings about men and attach it with our forefather Yaakov. Was he perfect? Obviously not. But unless any of us were in his exact situation, you would not understand. He didn't bag up Leah, gas her all up, and then take advantage of her. That's not what happened. He chose Rachel from the beginning. Rachel was the first one he saw, and he instantly loved her.
Those who know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Even though I don't recommend watching the show. But this was not a case of I picked Clark. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. This was not the same case. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Made an arrangement for Rachel. Rachel was the first one he saw, and he instantly loved her. He made an arrangement for Rachel. He loved Rachel. And maybe you don't like how he treated Leah, but he didn't love her at that time. His heart was with Rachel. Now, Shady Laban, he put Leah in that position, and it was all for our lives today. This wasn't all about a love story. Leah had a purpose, and she absolutely is blessed. She is the mother of 6 of the sons of Yasharel. Yeah. Please, don't place your modern thoughts of men and attach it to our forefather Yaakov. He did not play games.
Yeah, actually, yeah, she had 6. Yeah, having the first 4.
In some love cycle that he created. He did not play games. He wasn't in some love cycle that he created. He had a true heart for Rachel from the time he seen her. You were not in his shoes. You don't know really how he felt. So please, try to see things from a different perspective than what you may be trained to see things from. This isn't some kind of story from waiting to exhale. And I say all this because these thoughts that you may allow, they could fester to something that you do not want, just like Reuben allowed. I'm just advising many of you ladies to let it go if you're finding yourself trying to come against our forefather. Yah loved this man. Don't let your emotions get the better of you. But with that said, now there are 12 sons of Yasharel. So we're going to review them.
Okay. And so he eventually goes to, yeah. So yes, he mourned for Rachel's passing, but now it's, Leah's wife, Leah.
Visible commands according as he has divided the days of his generations. And Leah, his woman, died in the 4th year of the 2nd week of the 45th Jubilee. He buried her in the double cave near Rebekah, his mother, to the left of the grave of Sarah, his father's mother. And all her sons and his sons came to mourn over Leah, his woman, with him, and to comfort him regarding her.
So he did love Leah, and consider where he buried her. Yeah, he had a special burial place for Rachel, but Leah, burying, with his mothers, and yeah. And I know it's like, well, that's just another sign that she was just seen as some of you may think that. Remember, no. This is really deep because I didn't know this. I didn't know this more so in detail. So it's really, especially when you've been watching the series and if you've been reading, or reading the scriptures that go with it, that this is coming from. Yeah, it kind of, even in watching these characters, I'm actually seeing Leah. I actually have an image of Leah.
Came to mourn over Leah, his woman, his father, in the double cave near Rebekah, his mother, to the left of the grave of Sarah, his father's mother, and all her sons and his sons came to mourn over Leah, his woman, with him, and to comfort him regarding her. For he was lamenting for her, for he loved her exceedingly after Rachel, her sister, died. For she was perfect and upright in all her ways, and honored Yaakov. In all the days that she lived with him, he did not hear from her mouth a harsh word. For she was gentle and peaceable and upright and honorable. And he remembered all her deeds, which he had done during her life, and he lamented her exceedingly. For he loved her with all his heart and with all his soul. Jubilees chapter 36, verses 1 through 23.
See, this is my first time hearing this, or having this read to me. I'm like, oh, I mean, I knew of the story of, basically what's told in Genesis, but, to know this a little more in detail. And then, after watching this series and, us being introduced to her and like his, one of his last videos, and watching, even seeing the image of her in, the animated image of her here. So you do kind of almost get attached. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're gonna become attached. Yeah. So I'm like crying listening. Like, oh, and I know it's like, I know that the synergies and people up in here listen to this and you know um but I'm one of those people, like, when I see love, when I see true love, I myself am a very I'm already a woman, emotional naturally, but I'm a very emotional woman. Yeah, and it's just really, yeah, so I'm moved to tears, but it's not just tears of sadness. Of course, I sad that she passed, but to know that she was obviously Yah fearing and what they said, perfect, and she was a gentle woman, and she didn't complain, she didn't, she uh, I know y'all may think that's big. I'm Mammy Mule. That's big. No, he wasn't necessarily mean to her. He wasn't cussing out. Don't say he was cussing out. He still took care of her, his wife. Rachel was, yes, his first love, her younger sister. But yeah, he was given Leah, as a wife, although he had not fallen in love with her. And understand, it was a different time. Okay, marriages were not based on the same things that they may be about today. It ain't just about yeah, and of course, the marriages, like with the women, they were arranged. Um, yeah, but he was told that he was, yeah. So I just want to hear that once again. Yeah, so it just got me. And see, she was blessed. She was blessed. She was more fruitful. She was and we don't always know our purpose, um and I'm reading the comments, that's even hitting me even more in the comment section. I see there's quite a few women, and it's good to see that there are women who are not offended, but they're moved in the same way that I'm moved. Listening to this. Yeah, this is not Waiting to Exhale. This is not Terry McMillan. Okay, this is not a soap opera here. Okay.
A harsh word. He was lamenting for her, him, and all her sons and his sons came to mourn over Leah, his woman, with him, and to comfort him regarding her. For he was lamenting for her, for he loved her exceedingly after Rachel, her sister, died. For she was perfect and upright in all her ways, and honored Yaakov. In all the days that she lived with him, he did not hear from her mouth a harsh word. For she was gentle and peaceable and upright and honorable. And he remembered all her deeds, which he had done during her life, and he lamented her exceedingly. For he loved her with all his heart and with all his soul. Jubilees
Wow, and it really says it like that.
chapter 36, verses 1 through 23.
Jubilees 36. Let me I'm really um hold on. Yeah, and Leah, it says Jubilees chapter 36. I'm looking at it here. Okay, and starting at verse 21, chapter 36, verse 21. And Leah, his wife, died in the fourth year, the second week of the 45th Jubilee. And he buried her in the double cave near Rebekah, his mother, to the left of the grave of Sarah, his father's mother. And all her sons and his sons came to mourn over Leah, his wife, with him, and to comfort him regarding her, for he was lamenting her, for he loved her exceedingly after Rachel, her sister, died. For she was perfect and upright in all her ways and honored Jacob. She honored her husband, and she still respected him. And all the days that she lived with him, he did not hear from her mouth a harsh word, for she was gentle and peaceable and upright and honorable. And he remembered all her deeds which she had done during her life, and he lamented her exceedingly, for he loved her with all her heart and with all his soul. So read that. And I know there are those who, there's gonna be them naysayers that already, speak against the Bible, and they go, oh, don't think it's a thing of, oh, he just appreciated her when she passed. No. Just because the Bible don't go all in detail in every little, of their relationship. But I like to comment that someone okay, let me read some of these. I'm a comment reader because I have to see if people thinking what I'm thinking, and I see it's a lot of sisters, a lot of women in the comment section. This series is my favorite. The apocryphal readings are so beautiful. um I didn't know Leah was loved greatly, and that makes me really happy for her. Me neither. It truly brought a tear. I can see it because, okay, brother post here. I can see it because Jacob and Leah love was organic. It grew before their eyes. Jacob and Rachel was physical attraction, which is not wrong, but I say it was something feeding that attraction and love. He loved them both, but Leah had an advantage. There was no expectation nor something there in the beginning, so everything that came from her was welcome bonuses. She was the one who had his first child and more of his children than Rachel. Yeah, and obviously, I'm going to believe this is also apparently part of Yah's will, so that he can have as many sons and as many children. Because you got to understand what was promised through Abraham and to his son and Isaac and Jacob. And it's not to disregard the younger sister Rachel. I'm just saying, you know. And I know it's difficult to my sisters. It's very difficult. Like I wish I had never watched that reality show. I'm not going to say the name over here. And I'm trying to discontinue discussing it, but I keep seeing things come up, and people are still almost like that show was like a psyop. But for those who know, they know what I'm talking about. But that's why I made the little reference that pick Clark. But yeah, you know, I can understand it's tough. It's tough. There are times up in here. There are times like just up in here, my experience in YouTube alone, where there's been times you know what, forget this. Why am I even doing this? Why? Yeah, and there are times, and I understand. There are brothers who have told me. There are times that I don't believe the Most High do want me to speak on certain things, like the way I was continuously doing videos in defense of Bill Cosby. It was a brother of Yasharel who represented Yasharel more specifically. What I don't know what happened to that brother, but he told me, he used to be a part of my panels. He was one who told me I should chill with a lot of that. Like I may be thinking I could stand in the way of Yah's judgment, and I had to really consider that, you know. But he has said, yeah. So yeah, in me defending these celebrities, and not to say, it's not saying that whether or not I believe they're guilty or not, you know what they've been accused of. Now there's uh better things that I could be defending, or better, you know what I'm saying, like defending not these celebrities who put themselves in these situations in the first place. um but yeah, it is just natural for me to support my brothers. I'm just using that as an example and talking about myself. That is, no, I grew up under four brothers. But it ain't easy. It ain't easy to, and I know I can't take out on the entire demographic of Yasharel men um what is done by some, even if it's many. I know that because this is about Yah and Yah first, and I understand why this is happening. Deep down, I know why this is happening. Why there is this animosity currently between the women and the men of Yasharel. I know what it's about deep down, so I can't allow myself to get caught up in my emotions. Because trust me, there are times that I be just wanting to say, you know what, forget it. Why am I even doing it? They wouldn't do this for us. These brothers wouldn't do this for us. These brothers wouldn't, why do I still feel compelled to always come up in here, you know? Why do I let it affect me when I see my brothers being affected? Or when I see, you understand? Like not long ago, I was trolled heavy. Had a person doing a video mocking me, being already, me, what I shared on being already PED, and saw people, even those a person or two who would regularly be in my channel, they was in that video, or they were on that, hanging out on that person's channel. But I can't find it in me totally to just, it just, and then sometimes I'll be like, am I stupid? Am I but no, it's, of course, now I'm not talking about supporting these, worldly. I don't care if they have Yahuda or not. But I'm just talking, we gotta hang in here. We gotta understand. We're gonna have to get it together. We are gonna have to get it together and understand our roles. And understand, do not have these, to my sisters, you have those up in here who want you to confuse what is your motherly feminine instinct with a mammy instinct. Don't get, and I've said this before, don't have people where they have your mother, what is just your motherly instinct. And you are not wrong for that. You are not necessarily a fool for that. Don't have them confuse that with a mammy instinct. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people up in here who are just, it is a hustle. Okay, it is a hustle. They are basically phone sex operators saying whatever they think men want to hear, as long as they get the cash out, as long as they get the views, the PayPal or whatever, the super chats, the donations, whatever. There are those up in here. It's a hustle for them. And it's very obvious because ain't no woman going to totally be 100% all the time, because we are different. Even if we have the same intentions, we're not gonna always see, like with my husband and I, when it comes to budgeting, and it doesn't mean that we're not necessarily on the same page, but it's just like, like I may see the color, okay, he may just see the color pink, or the color red, whereas I may see the color crimson. I may see crimson. I may see brick red. Because woman, we're different. We may see things such as a little more detail than men. That's why I do feel that, and women, we're supposed to be supporters, men providers, protectors. That's the main job of the quote unquote patriarch. Women, supporters, nurturers. That's like our primary role, right? Support our husband, our family, and nurture. Okay. But if a man is a true, but also the scriptures say that man should love and honor his wife. And if he love and honor his wife, he will respect her opinion. He will give definitely consideration. If he loves his wife as his own body, as the scripture tells him, then he is definitely going to consider her opinion. He is going to, in whatever decision that he ultimately makes, he is definitely going to consider his support system, his wife. And if you are a good, loving wife, it makes it so much easier to be supportive. Okay. Like I used the example in my video I did years ago, like what was it, 2009, on women wives submitting. And this is before I was married. I knew my husband and I wasn't married, but we know we were friends at that time. I had no idea that I would be marrying him, but Like I said, like you have a situation where okay, this is the example I use. Okay, let's say you just got married, you just and you decide where your husband and you where you're gonna move and raise your family. Let's say you just got married, your husband, y'all newlyweds, and the honeymoon is over, and you're deciding, okay, you completed your secondary education, in your careers, but now you're deciding on where you want to live and raise your family. And okay, let's say the husband chooses, okay, I want to live in California, but the wife says, I believe that Atlanta, Georgia would be a better place for us to live, where he feels like, let's say, Sacramento, California. Now, the wife might be right. I mean, it may be the better choice to be in Atlanta, Georgia, but somebody has to make the final decision. That's all that when you understand the order, somebody has to make the final decision. Otherwise, you're going to keep bumping heads. So the man is appointed, being that woman come from man. Man was created first in the image of the Most High Yah, and then woman from man, from the DNA or the rib of man. There is an order. There is an order that we have to understand. The Most High Yahuwah, his Yahushua HaMashiach, his only begotten Son, the angels, and on earth, man, woman, child, animals. And when things are out of order, that's why I could not agree with these women who are up in here, the ones who I see as just basically phone sex operators saying whatever men want to hear, and they're blaming women for everything that's wrong. It's all the women's fault. No, it totally goes against the order. That goes against the order, and you are actually hindering. And I know I'm not perfect myself. Some feel that I shouldn't even be up there really talking and me confronting men. And I realize that I'm not perfect. I'm still very much, caught up in this, I'm trying though, a sister trying. I'm not perfect. My husband he does allow me because I am. But yeah, but I know I got to chill and fall back, even on whether it's confronting the Tariqs. I could address certain things without necessarily addressing these men directly. I get so frustrated though. I really get frustrated. I feel people that speak unnecessarily divisive. But sometimes this is caused and it's allowed to happen for a reason. Maybe it's to pick off those who want to be down with the patriotism and maybe this is part of the sifting out, the separation. See who's down. Well, I don't want to use the word down with, but yeah. Um, but so let's say, the wife might be the better decision to move, and start, move to Atlanta, Georgia and start the family, but still give the husband the benefit of the doubt. And if he is a good husband, a loving husband who loves his wife as he loves himself and honors her opinion and respects it, he is going to give great consideration to what the wife says. Okay, maybe he's gonna weigh it out if he's a good man. Now he may not make the best decision, but the thing is, allow him to make that decision, give the benefit of the doubt. And that ain't easy to do, especially for somebody. It ain't easy for me either, especially considering before my husband, I've been a person, if you want to say, independent for a while, and I had to be a big mama. I was a mother even before I was literally a mother. So I had to take on responsibility, with my two nieces coming along from a very young age, even though I was the baby of the family. So yeah, it was very hard for me. It was very hard for me to, especially when I was used to being the breadwinner, used to being or used to being the head of my household. It's very, I'm not gonna say, it was necessarily easy for me to like submit, and I'm still in that process. Still, yeah, you best believe. Especially when I was used to, being, and for so long, especially considering my mother passing away while, and so many older people passing away, where I had to take on responsibilities. even before my mother passed, with my, became like a second parent or a third parent to my nieces who were, my mother had full custody of, but they've been in my life since I was age 9 years old. And I was pretty much, getting up in the middle of the night as a child. My mama worked nights. I'm still a kid myself, making bottles and changing their diapers. So I was pretty much a parent for. And then my mother passed while they were still, before they even turned 18 years old. So I've been like a mother to, actually, even though I actually only had biologically one child, not to mention all the family. So that was not very easy for me. And it's not about me being a mammy. That's the motherly instinct in me. Okay, like I said, I was a big mama long time ago, and that's, sometimes I get upset when I think about, man, I missed out on so much in my young and 20s. I didn't get to enjoy myself like other people could, but everything is with the purpose. You don't know what. So it wasn't about me being a mammy. I just did what I had to do, and that's the motherly instinct in me. It's natural. I'm a woman. I'm the feminine. To support. That is what we do. We support. That's natural. As it is supposed to be for men, natural for men to protect and provide. And you're not protecting your woman if you are continuously blaming everything on women and not seeing your responsibility. But that's not really for me to be stressing repeatedly. But in talking to my sisters, yeah, we have to. It's difficult. I understand it's difficult. Well, yeah, like I said, a man that the reason there is order, so that there is no chaos. We need order. We need law. We need law. What kind of creator would create you? For those who are agnostic, what kind of creator would create you and all of the and just leave you just pointless with no direction, no law? People believe there are laws in the universe. If you believe that gravity is a thing, the laws of, you need law, you need structure, you need order. Just like in a classroom, there is like the teacher, they will set up for one of the kids to have responsibility to watch over the class. You may feel that could do a better job than the kid that's chosen, but if you ain't the child that's chosen first, then have a seat. It is what it is. And see, you may say you want that, but that leader, that independent, but then in taking that, there is a big responsibility. That's why people are going through what we're going through now, because we are supposed to be a light to the Gentiles, as we are calling ourselves, quote unquote, black. We are supposed to be a light to the Gentiles. We're supposed to be. So you want to claim it with Yasharel. Well, guess what? There's a big responsibility with that. We can't just be we the Hebrew Israelites. No, that is it's not just about knowing who you are. There's a big responsibility, and we are supposed to be setting an example for these nations. If you notice, when something is trendy, especially when we're talking Judah, the world follows. So there's a big responsibility with that. So that's what something also our brothers got to understand. But yeah, you still, like there were those who felt that they could be a better leader than Moses. He wasn't the best speaker, I believe. And that could have been him being raised by the Egyptian. Maybe it was difficult for him, speaking the language of Yasharel, being raised amongst the Kemetic people. Sitting his brother Aaron, high priest, did more of the speaking, as I believe. But this is who Yahuwah didn't choose Korah or Dathan. This is who the Most High chose to lead him out of Egypt. That's who he chose. And it's the same. And so when we consider that order and remember our place in that order, things would be so much easier. Okay, maybe Atlanta was the better option. He'll find out, but give the benefit of the doubt. Give him the benefit of the doubt, especially if you know that this your man loves you and he wants the best for you. He's going to do his best to make the best decision. Even so, long as you're doing the best that you can, you're going to be all right. And see, we are blessed. We are in today's time where we're not even under, most of us are not under arranged marriages. We have, as women with more quote unquote in supposed independence today, we can choose who we marry. We're not just who our fathers give us away with. At least talking to those my sisters in the U.S. So being that we are have more so-called freedom today, or independence if you may call it, so then then you have to consider who it is. Then you take advantage of that and give great consideration to who it is you choose to partner with and mate with. Don't just be thinking about dating. Okay, don't just be thinking about dating. Think about who you want to be with for the rest of your life. Is this a person you believe who would consider your opinion? See, now in the case of Leah, where she had no choice, but yet she still respected the order. She respected her father in marrying Jacob. She respected her husband Jacob, and she was blessed. And she definitely is to be remembered. It's good to know more detail. This is not a foolish woman, a mammy mule. This was a beautiful, virtuous woman. And, because I'm in a process where I'm going to change, well, I hope y'all willing that I will change at least my first name. There are family members I have who acknowledge that they're Yasharel, and they made, they changed their birth given names, because your name is definitely a reflection. And I know that I believe it's that time for me to change my name as well. Now I already have a biblical, surname, praise Yah, but but I, especially knowing the meaning of my actual name, so I'm thinking, I'm not lying, I'm thinking Leah. So I just wanted to talk to y'all for a minute. It moved me. I know I don't expect many people up in here to be listening to me right now. I haven't got a single comment in the chat room. But this is very, very emotional. I know. But I suggest you go back and watch. Hold on. See his channel here. Yeah, and let me just play that once more.
Second week of the 45th Jubilee. He buried her in the double cave.
And I just want to say, like in the case of the husband and wife and where they're going to live. See, the thing is, okay, he wants to live in California. She wants to live in Atlanta. Maybe Atlanta, Georgia is the better option. It could be. But, somebody has to come to that final decision. And so when you understand the order, it makes things much easier and smoother. So the husband, he makes the final decision on where they're going to move to. Now, maybe Atlanta was a better choice, but give them the benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, you're going to keep bumping heads. And believe it or not, there are a lot of divorces just based on this bumping head, on who gets to make the ultimate decision. That's why they have set things up where you have more women being, within our people being the breadwinner and more, and everything in their name and more in control. Because they knew that that's what would shift. Because that's what a lot of this is really about. This anima. It's not so much just about hair weaves. It's not, that's what it's about. These roles have been flipped, and that's on purpose. This is all part of a satanic agenda. And it's out of order. I don't care if every woman of Yahudah get it all together. If the men don't have it together, because you gotta understand, we follow your lead. So, and I'm not saying in the meantime we just wait on men, and women, we don't work on ourselves. But We have to be humble. We have to, and humility is not a bad word. It's not a bad word. Trust me, we will be blessed.
Of the second week of the 40.
And
And Leah
understand, we're not even in the situation that Leah was in back then, where, her marriage was arranged, but yet she was still obedient and submissive. That did not mean she was weak. It takes a very strong woman to be able to adhere, to take instruction,
Leah, his woman,
patient, to be patient, stay supportive. Now, understand, I'm not talking about, like somebody just straight cheating. No, this is a whole different situation here. This is not the same as, these situations today. I'm not talking, like with the nature boy. No, this is a whole different scenario, okay? So don't get it twisted. Don't get what I'm saying twisted now. And there ain't really no excuse for you even be getting with somebody like a nature boy. But if you do make that decision, to marry somebody that see, we ain't in the situation that Leah was in. And this was not a case, and Jacob still took care of her. He didn't, there's no claims of him beating her, being abusive, or doing anything outside of her knowing. That was not the case. It's just that he didn't initially love her because he first, thought that he was. In fact, he worked 7 years to marry Rachel, so that was not expected.
died in the 4th year of the second week of the 45th Jubilee. He died according as he has divided the days of his generations. And Leah, his woman, died in the 4th year of the second week of the 45th Jubilee. He buried her in the double cave near Rebekah, his mother, to the left of the grave of Sarah, his father's mother. And all her sons and his sons came to mourn over Leah, his woman, with him, and to comfort him regarding her. For he was lamenting for her, for he loved her exceedingly after Rachel, her sister, died. For she was perfect and upright in all her ways, and honored Yaakov. In all the days that she lived with him, he did not hear from her mouth a harsh word. For she was gentle and peaceable and upright and honorable. And he remembered all her deeds, which he had done during her life, and he lamented her exceedingly. For he loved her with all his heart and with all his soul. Jubilees chapter 36, verses 1 through 23. They ended it well. You have to understand, I really have a special place in my heart for our mother Leah. He never had a problem out of Leah. She was gentle, peaceable, and upright and honorable. Never a harsh word from her. I mean, that's just a great testimony to have of a wife. But now Leah's gone as well. Now, Isaac.
Yeah, and it makes me think of my auntie and uncle, the ones I said I had to live with. Now, my auntie, she was definitely in the morbidly obese category. And I'm not saying, I know that gluttony is a sin, don't get me wrong. That was the thing, though. They were Jehovah's Witnesses, and they believed that they felt they were okay still with eating pork. Yeah, and it's crazy because that's what ended up, the way that they ate, ended up taking up. But my auntie, actually, she lived longer, ended up living past my mother, even though she was expected to, because I will say that, she didn't drink at all or smoke or, they were very, very old-fashioned Jehovah's Witness family, my auntie and uncle and their 2 daughters. Yeah, they were very, very old-fashioned. In fact, she was a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, she passed away it was 2021. She passed away. It was 2020, 2021. Yeah. And I had another auntie in 2022. But yeah, she passed away, and she was actually born, she was the oldest. But she outlived my mother by like 20 years. Like nearly 20 years she outlived my mother. Even though she had been obese pretty much all her life, and it became in the morbidly like obese category, sometime in the 90s, and we thought we were going to lose her back then, especially after she had um had a fall and ended up in a wheelchair, which is what led her to becoming morbidly obese. But yeah, but I'm gonna tell you, before she had became like in that morbidly obese, she was a sassy. I mean, not a sassy, but she was a woman that you didn't want to cross. That woman gave me more butt whoopings than my own mama. She was strict, old fashioned, but her, oh goodness. And my uncle definitely took care of her. Like he was very old fashioned. She was a stay at home mom. She didn't even learn how to drive. Very, very old fashioned family. She sold the children's clothes. Okay. My uncle, he made a good amount of money and, went into real estate and all that. But she, he totally took care of her. But I'm going to tell you, as mean and strict as that woman was, when I lived with her and my uncle as a child, I don't remember them. And even as a teenager, I don't remember one time them arguing. I don't remember one time. Now, I'm not saying he was talking down to her or anything like that. But I'm going to be honest, I don't remember one time. As strict and as mean and that, not mean, but, she was just a strict woman. You didn't want to cross. But I don't remember one time her arguing with my uncle. One. And they stayed married until he first passed away. Years before she did, shortly, not long after my mom passed, he passed. And like days before my brother passed. And she ended up living up. Yeah, I don't remember one time that woman, them like arguing or even really having a disagreement. She still, and despite being obese and eventually, having to be in a wheelchair, she still cooked she still kept the house clean. She still cooked. She still, yeah, and he totally took care of her as a man should. And I don't recall him talking down to her, or her acting all and cowering in fear or anything like that. I don't remember any of that. And you would definitely think she would have been the angry, the so-called, the stereotypical, like stereotype, the angry, because she was a strict woman. I loved her, but she was strict. She'd be on your butt. But yet, when it came to her husband, and she understood, and he didn't talk. It ain't like, I'm not saying he was a cream puff, but he didn't talk down to either. He was a man, and it made it easy for her. He totally took care of her, but it made it easy for her. And she was, supposedly my mother was the more attractive sister. But I have to say this about my auntie, that she married and she stayed married. Now, I'm not saying everything may have been, I don't know, with their relationship. I'm just saying what I witnessed. And I lived back and forth with them many times, even as into teenage years. And even for a short period, when I came back to the city as an adult, I had to stay with them. Never remember them once arguing. Not once. And she is a woman who would raise a voice at you. But when it came to her relationship with him and her respecting, now, no, I no longer study with Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff, but I definitely believe that was a woman who feared the Most High, even if she may not have had the knowledge of who we were as Yasharel, but I'm just saying. So yeah, and she, of course, she represented different generations. She was early first generation baby boomer, born 1946, and actually lived longer than what we expected. She made it into her 70s. Now she told me, after my uncle had passed. Now he had passed like 2004, but she told me the only thing she regretted that she felt that she could have learned more, being that she was such a stay at home, she felt that she could have learned how to drive and stuff. That's the only thing she did regret in talking to me. Like, yeah, and when it came to the property that my uncle owned, she didn't really know how to. That was the only thing. Yeah, it is still good, even if you do have a man that's gonna take care of you, being that you don't know what may happen. But he made sure that she was taken care of. It. She didn't have to worry about. But the thing is, she could have continued to make money to, like through the real estate. She ended up just like kind of selling it all off because she didn't know. Now that's the only thing that she kind of regret. because they were. I'm telling you, they were so old fashioned. That's the thing. He was one of the men that he was kind of cheap. Like a lot of those men who are kind of self made. Like let's say, like, I'm not saying he was a millionaire, but like a self made millionaire. A lot of times they're cheaper than we realize. They're not like how we see with these celebrities, all flashy and showing out and yeah, a lot of the like men who kind of, yeah, especially those who struggle to obtain their riches and wealth. They don't live the way that we think they would be living. They don't drive the car you think they. Yeah, he was even though he had money, I will say it's kind of cheap and old fashioned. In fact, she was sewing. Yeah, a lot of the clothes they were so old fashioned. She would be sewing like my cousin's clothes, a lot of them. But that's how they. What you would think that they were kind of like almost like the Amish. Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, the Amish. I'm not saying it was exactly like that, like they all just walked around with not wearing pants, but I'm just saying it was. Yeah, they were even a little more, I guess you could say, stricter and old fashioned than other Jehovah's Witnesses, even. Yeah. But yeah, he totally took care of her. She never had to, but she did only. That's the only thing she read. She would have. I shouldn't say wished, but um she felt she could have learned more, or could have, because after his passing she was kind of although she was taken care of and stuff, but she sold off a lot of like properties and didn't, and also her not learning how to drive. So I wouldn't suggest that you. Yeah, I mean, it's great if you have a man that take care of you like that, but you don't know what may happen, so you do still want to be knowledgeable of survival, okay? Because you never know what may happen. But no, it wasn't a thing of like when he passed away, she was left with nothing. And no, it's just she didn't know how to handle certain things when it came to business, property, and all of that. That was the only thing. So yeah, we do still want to be wise women, and especially in these times. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all. That was very, very touching. Very, you know, um, and yeah. So subscribe to Truth Unedited. I put that particular video into the description. You can find it, but also you go to the channel. And watch this series from the beginning. If you just watch, you're not going to be touched the same. You have to go back. You have to hold on. Let's go to this playlist. Yeah, Truth Unedited. You got to go back to the very beginning, and he has the Waking Up to the Truth series. He's on part 20 now. Okay, and you first learn. Let me see. Now, where did we first learn about Leah? I believe we first learn about his wives, Jacob's. Yeah, and it's also like I talked before about with the whole thing with Dinah, and it showed that the men of Yasharel, particularly Jacob's sons, more specifically his oldest sons Simeon and Levi. Yeah, back then, I like hearing that they were willing to protect their sister Dinah, and me being the baby of the family, and I think how my brothers were very protective of me. But yeah, listen to this, and I want to be a patient, virtuous woman, similar to Leah and Sarah. Even more so Leah when I think about it. But um, let me see. But introducing the children of Israel. I think it's right here. I think it's he first talks about. Yeah, in part 16. Yeah, I think that's where he first talks about
and meet the first four sons of Israel. When Yahuwah saw that Leah was unloved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren.
Yeah. So, and understand, y'all is watching. He knows the situation with Leah, and to sisters, I know a lot of us may feel unloved, and like I just watching, like when I consider that reality show, think I pick Clark. Know that you are still chosen by Yahuwah, and the Most High. And he understands. He understands when we feel rejected, neglected. He understands. But please, hang in there. Don't allow yourself to become bitter, to become. And I'm not saying to just let people walk over you, let men walk over you. No, and we are not in the time of Leah where we can exercise more discernment in who we choose to be with and who we choose to, okay, but hang in there. And the Most High knows it is natural for you to want to have a partner, to want to be with someone. It's natural, and it does not make you. Doesn't make you a pick me. It doesn't make you a. Yeah, we know that we got some hustlers up in here. um, but yeah, don't because you have there's some women up in here who are trying to make our sisters feel ashamed for just having, for even still wanting to be with the men of Yasharel. Those are feelings that are natural. You should not feel ashamed of that. And I'm not saying that you should be up in here defending foolishness now, like some people up in here. Me seeing comments, with a woman co-signing black men saying that, oh, black women were not, or quote unquote, black women not the women of Yasharel, or they say black women, were not forced during slavery to have sex relations with black men. And you got this woman who is supposedly about quote unquote black love co-signing that. I'm not saying that you be about that foolishness and encouraging that kind of foolish behavior because like I said, even like in the case of, like certain, like the Just Pearly thing, they are really, really actually they are an hindrance. They are not helping the situation at all. If anything, they are. That is their way of taking, even though they want to appear as if they're submissive women and these are the bad women. Actually, they are taking away. They are doing a worse job than the feminists that they call out and taking away the power, usurping power from men by having them sit all day blaming women for their problems while they're just getting paid. No, that is not helping men at all. In fact, they are doing way more damage than the feminists ever could. And don't realize or just don't care. They are in the sense taking away or trying to take away power from men by having them sit all day listening to how bad women are and complaining and blaming women for everything that's wrong. And that is not helping. Yeah, yeah. Well, we can be historians. We can be historians. This even if I understand what you're saying though. I understand, but understand there. This isn't the case with. There are people up in here. There are people like myself. There are people up in here who do have sincere intentions. We're not perfect, and yeah, sometimes I do come up in here just to rant, just to or just to chill or kick it, or and sometimes even roast. I'm not perfect, but I know that when I did my initial videos, I know where my heart was at. I ain't know nothing about getting paid up in here. In fact, for years I was in here getting paid, and I am not mad at people who are getting support monetarily and taking advantage of YouTube as they should, especially with the effort and work. But yeah, we can, you know, if you can share history, you can be a historian. I mean, even if we're not like certified as, you know, or but there were people, and there still are people up in here who read. They're not, getting that focus. But There are people with PhDs who are teaching nonsense. Yes, nonsense like the Big Bang Theory. See, the Bible say the wisdom of this world, the scriptures say the wisdom of this world is foolishness. So I'm not just going to go by a PhD. Yeah, that's impressive. But I have learned way more information on my own than I ever did. In fact, my first, and my initial scholastic teacher, my mom taught me to read before I was even in school. And she taught me better than any school ever could. And I tried to do the same with my daughter. I have learned way more outside of school. Now, no, of course, I had never went to no university or any. Yeah, but that's as long as even if we're not certified quote unquote historians, that don't mean that we're not sharing information and we're not sharing history. And what is history? Because a lot that we have been told is history is just that, his story. And just because something is presented as facts doesn't mean that it's always the truth. But I hear what you're saying though, especially now. But yeah, there were people up in here, people who were sincere, people who were gracious enough, and they had been in here for years and not getting paid. People who were gracious enough to share, like some of these books now. Now I used to could find certain things in Google Books. Now you got to pay like $500 to like $10,000. But there have been people up in here. I've been here long enough to see that there were people up in here just sharing what they had directly, showing you their books, sharing, reading directly from it. There have been people like, even though I now have the publication from Babylon to Timbuktu, Rudolph Windsor, I initially read it. It was in YouTube. Now I own the publication now, but it was in YouTube. There are people up in here that graciously just sharing it. And this is before there were people literally reading, not even just from their Kindle, not even just, there used to be people up in here, just like how you shared with me the color purple. There were people up in here nice enough to share. Oh my gosh. And I remember, like, we don't have the book of Joshua. My husband just listened to it. He said he listened to it in its entirety. But there are people up in here, they're not as nice like that anymore. I know that you shared with me, and I'm going to ask you if you could one more time. But there were people up in here nice enough to share. Like, I was like, wow. And I couldn't believe when I discovered, like, Google Book. Well, our first online library with the Hoover books. But yeah, there were people up in. Okay, for instance, what was it recently exposed by Vladimir Putin, Russian leader? With the Russian iconography. Those images I had already seen. There was a person up in there. He had the book, the Russian iconography book, and just nicely just sharing. And these images eventually shared in Google Images and everything. But it was a guy, he had purchased it. That had to cost them money. It was a brother up in here, had the book, shared it with us, And I ain't got money. I know I ain't got for. Yeah, and it takes time. Like when I put together my video and debunk my series, Debunking Evolution. Now, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the information, some of the information came from, this Jehovah's Witness publication I had. Now I don't regret, because I tell people, hey, you can look this information for yourself. Now there, because I think that was one of the I don't regret the JW, or even if I don't no longer study with Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't regret, because it put me up on other reading. The publication that came out in the late 80s, Life by Chance, How Did It Get Here? That was one of the first publications from a quote unquote religious sect that was debunking the theories and teachings of the modern teachings of evolution. So I very much valued that publication and using secular sources and citations, just like the reason. So I don't regret the time I had studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, even if I don't study them anymore. But they put me up on other publications, and they would always make sure to have citations and everything. But I took it to, it was a, I look at it like it was a lot that I put in. I wasn't getting paid. I didn't get anything. I could have had my channel monitored. I don't know. I just didn't follow through. Didn't care to at that time. I tell y'all, don't be foolish like me now. Take it as a blessing, especially if you know that you're doing the right thing and you're not doing anything wrong. Now, when it comes to the scriptures and what the Bible says, that's where your faith and your discernment, hopefully you are guided by the Ruach, the Holy Spirit. You see, people deny this isn't history. This isn't okay. See, that's where your faith's gonna have to come in. Your intellect, your common sense, your intellect or your Yah-given, spirit-guided common sense and discernment. Well, oh yeah, but I think too what it is, like what you're saying too, like you're saying with the Indians. Oh gosh. It's like with the whole FBA, like they're purposely being ignorant. I'm not even, I can't even take it serious. I looked at, I just had to remove a whole bunch of comments. Oh, I'm being called all kind of names. But it's like they're purposely ignoring and being ignorant. In that case, it used to be where people would debate, disagree what you're saying, present information, but now they just. But yeah, and now people's attention span is so short, and it's shortened my attention span now. I just don't know. I don't have the patience, but I'm gonna have to get it back if y'all willing, because if he has me up in here for a reason. But I'm just really, really touched by this. No, but them yo people. Stop being bougie. Goodness, you bougie. Yes, I use the term bougie. Stop being bougie. Kind of reminded me of my mama a little bit in that sense. like, oh gosh, wait, I'm supposed to be serious. I remember what Everybody Hates Chris when he referred to he's a ghetto snob talking about his mom. But yeah, goodness. It's like yo people. Yeah, that's Judy. Yo, oh wait. You may be. I'm gonna look into that. What you had shared with the DNA. Obviously, it's Shemitic. You're in the E's, so you're a descendant of Abraham. But with what you had shared with the DNA results, it's not exactly Jacob. Oh no, you're not. No, you're not finna. No, you're not finna. No. See, I'm opposed against the YouTube, the bootleg. Okay. Goodness. Oh goodness. Goodness, my people. My people. Oh gosh. Well, y'all, I'm surprised I still got, they keep telling me, oh, my time is almost up, my monthly plan, because I ain't paid for the stream, y'all. And don't worry about donating, y'all. But I'm just saying, because I need for the stream yard to be cut off, because I need to get back focused. The end of the year is here, all the temptation hopefully will pass. He's supposed to be celebrating these holidays and stuff anyway. Yeah, but people gotta understand. But it was about the fact of him being a little relatable. You dig, you dig. That's what that was about. So you gotta understand, because it was a point where I was feeling up in here like a lot of the people that were supposedly under the, representing pro black. I just felt like I couldn't relate to them anymore. They were just too. But now I realize I'm coming out of my whole pro black era. I never thought I'd be saying this, but this is something more spiritual with me. This is something way more spiritual with me. Oh no, Tariq ain't part of no boule though. Nah, but I still call it the YouTube boule. I still call it, the social media boule. I call it that for a reason. But if him literally being a boule member, no, not even. It's like as crazy as I'm saying Lil Wayne's part of the Illuminati. That's just as crazy. But let me not get too off track with this. I don't know. They keep telling me my time's almost up or my free minutes or whatever with StreamYard. So, and that's good. I don't want to. Oh wait, but I am supposed to with Garwin. Supposed to. Ah, but I'm just because I want to be honest. For the rest of this winter, I want to disappear and just really, 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 really focus on. Oh, man, and I felt like I was doing so good, but there's so much temptation, food temptation. Oh man, if you know what I'm saying. Oh, you are? Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I gotta check it out. Well, she's probably definitely Eastern Star or whatever. Yvette, but yeah. Um, yeah, but y'all gonna have to let that stuff. You gonna have to. I know y'all wanna, with the Masons, and gonna have to. I gotta come with the truth. I gotta come with the truth for Zora TV. Just like I got brothers and sisters up in here who I love, and they're Nation of Islam or they're Muslim, and I felt that was gonna be hard for me to confront and talk about. Not saying that I'm gonna be confronting them, but I can't be tiptoeing around what I truly believe. Like I gotta come to terms with how I see myself as a quote unquote so called black person. Like I said, if we are supposed to be a light to the Gentiles, to the other nations, how can we be that if we're continuously still referring to ourselves as black? And see, I know that I'm still very much caught up in black pride. Very much. It's addictive. It's intoxicating. But I'm going to have to let it go. And my attachment to hip hop. And that's tough. I think my attachment to the music in relation to the culture, I think that's going to be the hardest. That's going to be the hardest. I'm still struggling with that. I think that is, as crazy as that sounds. It's not. I don't worry about fornication or drugs. It's my biggest struggle. Addiction is my attachment to blackness and the culture, more specifically, like with hip hop. That's in music, in quote unquote black music, and my addiction. Still struggling with removing certain music that I have in my possession that I know I'm not supposed to be. That's I know y'all think that's no big deal. It's a big deal for me. It's been a big deal of mine for years. That's what ends up getting me back into certain conversations and stuff. So anyways, but I want to be more so like Leah. I want to be a patient, more virtuous woman. Definitely even more so supportive of my husband, of my family, but first and foremost, an example, or serving them the Most High Yahuwah. I have been, touched really deeply just listening to this. That I literally cried because I always felt, my relationship. How is my relationship with the Most High Yah? How's my relationship? Is it just about knowledge? Is it just about knowledge? I wanted to feel a personal connection, and I don't know. I can't explain it, but through listening to this in regards to Leah, I feel a personal connection. And and I have also been taunted. There have been those taunted as a Mammy, mule. I never was up in here putting down black. That was never me. Just because of me confronting certain individuals, okay, that was never me. But I really do just want what is best for us. You know, and I love my people, but I want us to love Yasharel even more so. And I don't want to see us hurt. I'm tired of, believe it or not, a lot of this, it's like when I get so frustrated, I think I just want to keep talking about these people. I get so frustrated because I really am hurt. I'm hurt by seeing us hurt each other. It bothers me. It really irks me. This is just not just a thing of me starting stuff with YouTubers. I am at a certain zero. I'm fed up with the unnecessary division and roasting. I'm tired of the roasting of each other. And that includes our brothers and sisters overseas. I don't want us hurting each other anymore. I'm really tired of it. That's the point I'm at. And I have a sense of humor. That's why I said, let me change the channel over there, Rants, Roast, and Receipt. And I'm so tempted to put a lot of them videos even on EU, on private. But I feel like, still gotta, still, no, it's still gotta be out here. It's still gotta be. I gotta quit letting stuff get to me. But anyways, I will get back with y'all later. Yeah, enjoy, and I'm sure gonna be looking out for your stream, Azor TV. Definitely looking out for it. So again, I may not be back up in here if they. Hopefully, they'll tell me that I used up my minutes with StreamYard, so I don't have an excuse to come back up in here on impulse as you've been noticing me doing. Just look for videos. Okay, I'm gonna keep it going with this channel, but yeah, I'm gonna try to just keep it with the videos. So yeah, we're gonna get more serious. Y'all willing, we're gonna get more serious. I mean get it back polished over here as it should be. So again, please subscribe to Truth Unedited. I really suggest you checking out his Waking Up to the Truth series. Please start from part 1. I definitely recommend. You will find yourself binge watching it. It's the Sabbath. And also Watchman Reports, I shared in my community chat. They had a really, really good lesson. It's so ironic they have this lesson talking about ignorance. And it's interesting also considering what you're putting in, yeah, it does say, the scriptures say our people perish for lack of knowledge, right? And then you say, well, is there a contradiction considering that, Eve chose knowledge over everlasting life? No, that was about her being that was about disobedience. Her feeling that she was thinking that there is this hidden knowledge that she must know. That's basically like Eve practicing occultism. Like we're not meant to know everything, and like if we're not meant to be stargazers, astrologers, if it's not meant for us to know and follow, if we're told to don't, then we just don't. We're not meant to know everything in at one time. Like when the fallen angels, you revealing too much information to man, especially when man wasn't prepared and didn't know how to act. So of course they took bad advantage of that, learning how to make weapons and everything. Yeah. So yeah, we do need to have knowledge, but there's a time and place. That's another thing too. Like you don't teach a 5-year-old about the sexual, the reproductive organs. They're too young. They're not ready to learn about the birds and bees. They're not prepared for that. There's a time and place. But now is the time though. We are in a time, like the scripture said, it would be a whole flood of information. And we're obviously in that age of information. So we definitely need to take advantage of the information we're given while we have the time, and let go of occultism. See, occult mean hidden, secret. And see, that's the thing. Eve wanted that, what she believed was the secret knowledge, the hidden knowledge that was not intended for her to be dabbling and messing into. So that's like occultism. And that's what these other Gentile nations that are so in pursuit of the hidden, the occultism. That's why they into sorcery, witchcraft. wanting to have an understanding of ley lines and all that stuff, how to control the weather, just all that kind of stuff. That's not what we need to be focused on learning or trying to know about. We need to, let it go, with the cultism, the crystals, all that stuff, tarot card, all that mess. Let that go. And learn the truth first and foremost that is in the scriptures. And learn what's been hidden. I mean, no, not what, well, I'm not talking occultism. I'm talking about the knowledge that Yah meant for you to know. Because there are books that have been hidden. I'm not talking, witchcraft. I'm not talking, dabbling into what the Most High tell us we should stay away from, like astrology and all that. And sorcery and all that mess. But anyways, y'all, again, enjoy the rest of your Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy the rest of your week. Much peace. And yeah, and I did also share the online it was good video, good lesson, good Sabbath lesson on, what was it called? I got it on my community tab. Really good lesson. I shared it on all three. Why is it not showing up the thumbnail? But it's ironic. It's so ironic. Ignorance does not cancel judgment. Like some people feel, well, they don't want to know that the celebrating Christmas and these pagan holidays is wrong. They don't want to know. They don't want to. They purposely, even though they know, they'd rather not know. So they can pretend as if they didn't know that these have pagan origin. But like you're saying here, ignorance, I know that this is a typo, does not cancel judgment. So it's ironic with us considering what we've been talking about. Not, I know I see the typo, but I'm just saying. Get the point of what's being stressed here, though. No nitpicking. Okay. All right. So check out that lesson. Get a Sabbath lesson in. Enjoy the rest of your week. Much peace and much love, my family.